Hello, I'm Sakamoto from Far-End Technologies. I'm going to talk about when we automated Redmine vulnerability diagnosis using Ruby and Selenium. First, about myself. I'm Sakamoto, working for Far-End Technologies. This is my third year with the company. My main job is the improvement of existing products and automation of the tests. And in particular, I'd like to talk about when we automate the Redmine vulnerability diagnosis using Ruby and Selenium. So this is the agenda I'd like to cover today. But first, why do we need to check the vulnerability? Our company uses a tool called VADI to perform the regular Redmine vulnerability diagnosis. The vulnerability is the security problem, and it's like a hole in a service. Because of the hole in a service, there's a risk of virus infection and the private data lost, and the cyber attacks may happen. So when we perform vulnerability diagnosis, we check if there's any hole in the service. By conducting this diagnosis regularly, we can improve the higher quality service. So I'd like to go to my main topic. But before talking about automation process, I'd like to talk about the process of vulnerability diagnosis of the Redmine itself. So we use the VADI, and there are two steps. The step one, we need to create a crawling data. So that's the log of all the operation of the Redmine, such as clicking the link. To perform the vulnerability diagnosis with VADI, we need to create the crawl data first. And step two, based upon such crawling data, we performed vulnerability diagnosis. VADI scan server sent a request to Redmine, the test request, to check if there are any vulnerability or not. And this time, we automated the first step using using Ruby and Selenium. So I'd like to focus on this step. To create the crawl data from crawl through proxy, we need to access to the start URL of VADI, and then we operate the Redmine so we can collect the data of the activity we like to diagnose. And this part was automated this time. And after completing operation of the Redmine, we need to access to the finishing URL on VADI. This concludes the creation of the crawling data. And the crawling data are all the data between accessing to the start URL and finishing URL. So this captures all Redmine operation as crawling data. Then I'd like to introduce the Selenium method. So Selenium was built on Ruby. So it's a bit difficult for you to imagine. So I show you how we can operate a Redmine using the Selenium code. So after logging into the Redmine, we create the ticket. So that's the part we show you here. It was quite quick, and perhaps it wasn't easy to see. This way, automatically, browser started to produce the crawling data. And this is a code used to have that performance. And when we use Selenium first, we need to install it. But due to the time constraint, I skipped that part. And what you see on the screen is quite busy. So when we upload this slide, I'd like you to take a look at this slide more. Now I'd like to introduce the methods we use for the codes. And 4 methods I'm going to introduce. First, starting up the browser. So to execute this code, we can start the browser. And again, we need to install the driver in practice. But by writing :Chrome, the browser can start automatically. I use Chrome, so I wrote :Chrome. But if you prefer, you can use Firefox as well. And next is a page transition, accessing to the page you like to display. If you like to go to the particular page, you can use Navigate to. You specify URL to go to that page. I use this method to show login screen and ticket creation screen. In case of Redmine, we can move from page to page by clicking the button. But if you like to save time, or if you like to display particular page, I recommend you to use Navigate to. And next is the acquisition of elements. The method we use is find element. So this is how you type ID attribute, and the username attribute values can be specified to acquire elements. And this code in this example was here the login ID text space. And also you can acquire XPath name attributes, not just ID attributes. Also find element can be combined with another methods. For example, send keys to input the characters, or click method to click elements. So I like to introduce these methods as well. So send keys, the character strings which is specified with the argument, it can be put into the text box. So the login ID acquired in a find element can be combined with send keys admin, and then admin character strings can be put into this text box. So send keys is very useful method. The putting ID and passwords here, and also on another screen, titles and explanation, text creation. So when we use Selenium, send keys is very handy method. Also, click method can be combined with find element. So by using this way, we can click that acquired element. So usually you need to use ID or argument, but this click method, you do not need to use argument. You simply write .click. So in the video you saw, for example, clicking login button, I use this method. So quite useful to click the button. The last one is waiting. For the Redmine, when we attach the file, it takes longer time than usual. So Selenium, as you saw in the video earlier, is very quick. So sometimes it tries to move to the next operation before the file attachment is completed, and then as a result you get the error message. Therefore, you like to let the program to wait until this process operation is completed. I tried these 3 methods, and I found implicit wait was easiest to use. So I show you how I compare these 3 methods. Starting with sleep method. The sleep method is very simple. Sleep and number. And the program will sleep for the number of the seconds specified. So here, suspending the program for 5 seconds. And however, you do not know how long it would take to complete the process depending on the task and the network. So you don't know what should be the time you should specify here. And if you give the longer time, it sleeps longer than it's necessary, so it's not efficient. So that was the challenge. And the next is the wait until. With this method, first, you need to give 50 seconds timer to wait, and then it waits until the element specified in the bottom line is displayed. So here, it waits for 50 seconds, and during that time, if the display is shown, and then it completes the task. However, again, wait until has drawbacks as well, because every time you have to call this line, the bottom line, wait until, so it increases the amount of the codes you need to write. And that's where I like to introduce implicit wait. So I like to introduce implicit wait method. And in this method, until you can specify the time for waiting for finding elements of the driver. So it sounds similar to wait until, but for this implicit wait, you set the waiting time for driver once, and then the waiting time can be applied to all elements of that driver. Therefore, you do not have to wait longer than necessary, and you don't have to call every time, so the waiting is more efficient. So using this method, step 1, generation of the crawling data was automated. Also for step 2 as well, it's not the Selenium we used, but it's called shell script, and the body function, we automated this step as well. And for future, for step 2, we like to write shell script for automation by Ruby, so that the maintenance will be easier. In the past, everything was manual. Therefore, the Redmine vulnerability diagnosis was a very time-consuming process, and sometimes even a whole day. However, we don't have to do anything. It's done automatically every week. Also, by automating this process, the time required to perform the vulnerability check was much shorter. Therefore, we could increase the frequency, like once a week. Also, it could eliminate the human error as well. The summary for my talk today. As for the vulnerability diagnosis, by automating the process, we can perform it more efficiently and more completely now. And as for the Selenium, send keys method is very useful. And also, during having Selenium, we have to use the waiting, the wait, and also amongst the several options, implicit wait was the easiest to use. Thank you very much.